Now we have our keynote, very exciting, titled The People Factor. Where do we go now? Join us for an exploration of what led to the downfall of today's labor force and what leaders are doing about it. Our keynote speaker will explore solutions from his experiences with iconic leaders like Steve Jobs, Paul Marciano, and Bill Johnson. Get ready to explore the new ways of working in a post-COVID world. Please welcome our esteemed platinum sponsor, keynote speaker, CEO, and co-founder of the Michael Koch Group, Michael Koch. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys coming in. Sometimes the voice can be a little loud. Again, it's a privilege. Having been at a couple of the sessions, finished one a few minutes ago in the marketing group, the education awards the other day, I'm blown away at the level of talent that's in this particular conference. It's amazing. So hands on, big round of applause for yourself. It's amazing to be here. We talk about technology, we talk about what we're doing, we talk about AI, we're talking about DEI, we're talking about a lot of things here. But I'm going to get to the core reason that CEOs like yourself and myself are going through the issues we're going through today. When I reference various things, if the slides work, can I get it to work? Maybe? Let me see 1 second, guys. Sorry for the issue. Maybe I got it. Maybe it's user error. Any luck? 1 second. User error. Steve would have killed me. Okay. My story and the book that people say that I should write is based upon experiences that I've had with people that I'm privileged to work with. Marciano, Jobs, Ken Griffin, certainly Bill Johnson, and some of the gifted individuals at those companies. I was overwhelmed by their talent. But it's a story of change. It's a story of change across the board. And I've had to change my mind to do various activities within the organizations I worked with. It said that there is nothing more powerful than a changed mind. Nothing is more powerful than a changed mind. You can change your hair, you can change your home, your job, your spouse, where you live. There's nothing you can't change about yourself. But if you don't change your mind, the same situations and experiences will continue to happen over and over and over again. Why? Because something outwardly changed, but nothing inwardly changed. Make sense? So today I'm going to ask you to change your mind. We're going to talk about each other. And we're going to talk about why people are successful, why people fail, and what's going on in the business world. I left a couple of pieces of collateral on the desk. Might not have time for questions at the end. I'm always here for you whenever you need me. Please call me or what have you. Let's talk about what it used to be. Remember time clocks? I do. I worked in a steel factory when I left the Marine Corps. Punching in every day, chunk, chunk. Remember that? What about fax machines? Oh, those are the coolest things in the world. Fax machine was at your job site. It's the greatest thing. A handshake was good enough as a gentleman or person's agreement to say, yes, my handshake is as good as gold. Does that day exist anymore? Nah. I need an email. I need a contract, DocuSign, all those crazy things that come into play. As we move forward, we saw technology change. I was privileged enough to work with Cynthia Daly at Nextel Communications when we built 250 stores a year. Cynthia Daly created the Amber Alert system. Remember that? I remember what it was like as a kid, going to the grocery store, asking my mom, why is that kid's picture on a milk carton? We've changed. We've adapted to technology. Our world is different. An ecosystem of product is not just about a device. It's not just about the internet. It's not just about an integration within a home. It's about a complete ecosystem and city landscapes. Technology is changing. But the labor force is driving the equation. The labor force and its rapid deterioration is drawing us to say, how do we change our mind in how we move forward? We've all seen it. Labor shortages left and right. You see it on the nightly news. I'm going to tell you how it happened. And the scary part about it is, ready? Here it is. There's the prediction. So in conferences in the future, you're going to say, man, he called it 5 years ago. I called it 7 years ago. And it's worse than I thought. Understanding 2023's impact before we go into what's happening with people, I'm going to tell you about my industry. 80% of the construction firms are saying they're having a tougher time hiring specialty trades. Votechs are non-existent. Metal shop doesn't exist in high school anymore. Let's go to coding class. These are just the facts. I'm not saying what we're doing about it yet. 73% list this issue is going to continue for 2-3 years. 44% of the general contractors, including 2 in the room today, tell me that job costs are higher and longer and project durations are longer year over year. Okay? The struggle is real. Having to explain that to our various clients is not an easy thing, especially when they're old school and they say, man, this should have cost me $215 a foot. Why is it $400 now? Okay? Part of it is the equation that's related to labor. You heard me talk about it previously. For the first time in history, there are 5 generations of people in the workforce. There's actually a 6th now, Gen Alpha. Think about it. People that voted for Dwight D. Eisenhower are still within our companies. They are. How do you communicate with somebody who wasn't perhaps given the opportunity to work with the same tech that the younger generation is today? How do you fluidly work with that individual or that board manager that says, my company needs to make $150 billion this year, this is how we're going to do it? And you're like, whoa, that was 1955. Help me out here. Okay? What about that generation, that next generation that's coming up? When you look on a lateral line, think of all the stories they have as they grew up. My mother fondly remembers when John Kennedy was shot. I met a person the other day who remembered when the atomic bomb was dropped. Okay? People that were in Korea, Vietnam, etc. These are all still in our workforce. And then Gen Alpha comes along. We're still trying to figure out who they are. There are some of us, like myself, and I give my wife a hard time. I'm still trying to figure out the millennials, okay? It hasn't been easy. Come on, little joke here. Give me some latitude. But I want to talk about a significant time, and this explains it easier than anything else. In 1978, the break between Gen X and the millennials, those are your top companies in the world. Recognize them? What do you see? Oil and gas. 1978. The microchip came around in 74. First iterations, I should say. Let's flash forward to another significant date, 1998. Why? Let's talk about these companies. 20 years later, those companies that dominated the landscape for tens of years are no longer in play. Fast Company, eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, some of those have already gone. Netscape. You guys don't use Netscape anymore, right? I mean, they used to be the players. If you think about what's happening today, it's completely different. So now you have a group of individuals, millennials, centennials, that were born into technology, but their bosses were still part of the old school. How do we work together? How do we talk together? How do we integrate together? When you look at the different generational changes, the facts are astounding. When they were born, how many people there are, etc. If you look at how they're breaking down the 28 traditionalists, boomers, folks like myself, Gen X, and then you have the millennials, and then that group, the centennials, Gen Z, and then Gen Alpha that comes in right behind them. Think about all of those things that they went through in school, their daily life, movie theaters. What does that look like? Well, The traditionalists grew up in an environment where homes were $6,000. The average annual salary of a traditionalist was $1,900. Flash forward to people in your workforce now, median salary $59,000, homes are costing $402,000. Can anybody say that it's easy for these groups to relate to each other? It's not. What do you say? I say it to my kids. When I was a kid, I sound like my dad. Okay? That's how it is. You have to find a different way of communicating at an interpersonal level in order to achieve what you need in your businesses. These particular groups are broken down into 3 sections, and this is the one scariest factor that I'll tell you today. And it should scare the hell out of you. 31% of the population is boomers, 21% Gen X, 45% millennials. For the first time in history, by the year 2030, and I called it 6-7 years ago at retail spaces, and nobody believed me. For the first time in history, the older generation will outnumber the younger. If you're part of that older generation, you're going to be extremely valuable to your boss. If you are the boss, you're going to be working a little longer. You've already seen the push to raise the retirement age. It's not just because they're trying to increase Social Security. It's because the labor force has deteriorated to a pace that we can't keep up. It's not going to get better. There's only so many babies that were born. So when people say, oh, I had one of my partners a few years ago say, yeah, we know, we're going to fight our way through it. It'll get better. The next election, it'll get better. The next election after that, it'll get better. It's not going to happen. There's not enough people. So you're seeing the advancement of tech and you're seeing the advancement of robotics augment the loss of human capital. That's a fact. Millennials in here, raise your hand, please. I'm going to give you another startling factor for the people that your boss. If you're your own boss, congratulations. 2/3 of you are going to leave your job in the next 3 years. It's going to happen. So now, not only do we have fewer people, we got people that are moving a lot. Okay? How do we augment and train those folks that are backfilling those individuals as well? Another thing that the average everyday CEO has to go through. But it comes down to 2 things. How do we relate and how do we feel? Those 2 common questions are the things that come up every single time in surveys when you're asking the generations about each other. The millennials that are leaving are saying they're jumping because they don't feel like they're contributing. How's that possible? How's it possible that we're letting people leave because they're telling us that they feel that they're not contributing? I want to go to a company where I can really make it happen. How is that possible we're letting them go? How do you feel? How do you feel about how you're contributing? Are you doing the job that you're aligned to? Are you doing the job that you were trained to do? Or are you doing the job that I just pushed you in because I had an empty spot and I needed to make sure that that was going on? Angela Bryan, don't answer. Huh? I got you. Here's an example of something I would recommend to do. I can't do it today because we do have limited time. When you're sitting in your team meetings and you're sitting in your environments, put 4 chairs together, maybe add a 5th. Put 1 person from every generation in one of these chairs, okay? And ask them candidly a few questions. Who did you vote for president? What was your song at your high school graduation? Okay? What was your the year that you went to grade school? And you'll start to see people engaging with each other differently than they had before, simply because I'm asking them to talk about themselves. I had this happen to us down in Florida when I gave this presentation. It was the most effective thing I did the entire session. And it was funny too. One lady got up there and said, I voted for Eisenhower and I'd vote for him again. I'm like, oh, that's not happening, ma'am, sorry. It was going to be tough. But as we break down, and apologies if you can't see it closely, I'm just going to skim over these particular divisions, the traditionalists, the boomers, and who we are. You're going to see some funny stuff here, okay? And time to go to the Wayback Machine. But I want to focus on the bottom section. It talks about our leadership styles within the various pillars. And they are extremely different. And I can tell you that it's across the board different than people realize. The traditionalists, World War II was their social marker. Boomers will say their social marker was the moon landing. Gen X, the stock market crash. Remember that? 87? I do. It was awful. September 11th for millennials. Gen Z, certainly what happened with GFC. Gen Alpha, Trump, Brexit, 2016. We are all different people. This is available to you. You'll see it online later. Take a picture if you like. But look at the leadership methods. All 6 of them are very different. Every single one of us works differently. I can tell you for Gen X, I am a coordinating leader. I love to get in the middle of stuff. There are others, Gen Alpha, look at that. They're more of the inspiring. I'm going to sit in a corner and inspire the other individuals. So we are different as a people. Within a 30-minute time slot, this is very tough for me to go over, so bear with me. In moving forward, I'm going to give you some ideas that I stole. Cameras, don't print this. I stole from Steve Jobs' desk via Benjamin Fay. So if you got a pen and paper, share these with your people. Because these came right on a handwritten note off of his desk. Ready? Number 1, the quality of your work must be stellar. Teach it to your team. Substandard work is not acceptable, period. Have you ever been in a meeting with Steve and you weren't ready? Like I was one time, complete humiliation, okay? Complete and utter humiliation, and it never happened again. Number 2, with your emails, your texts, your phone messages, etc., your reputation and your credibility is at stake. Number 3, you have to explain clearly and persuasively your rationale. You can't just say, hey boss, I need $250 million. It doesn't work that way. Onboard others to support your vision. Steve was the best at it. He'd tell you he was not the smartest man in the room. He wanted to hire smart people. I have no idea why they hired me. Come on, a little laugh there. Lastly, attack each day with courage and conviction. With courage and conviction. Like your very life depended on it. You're going to go through tough times in the future. You got to know your why. Short video coming up shortly. It's going to feel like you're pushing a rock up a hill. You're going to feel like nobody understands you. Nobody understands you. But I'm asking you to be determined in everything you do. Your why must be stronger than any obstacle. Forget all the reasons it won't work and focus on the single reason why it will. Short video from Matus. I can't explain it any better. Anybody remember Mike Tyson? Remember Buster Douglas? Let me give you the backstory. It's a great video.
You can write everything down if you want to. Be brave enough to write every one of your goals down. But I'm going to tell you something. Life's going to hit you in your mouth, and you got to do me a huge favor. Your why has to be greater than that knockdown. And I love it. Buster Douglas got knocked out. Nobody ever got knocked out by Mike Tyson and ever got back up. It was almost a 10 count. He was stumbling. They were 4, 3, 2, 1, and ding, 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 saved by the bell. He goes to his corner. The whole world is like, yep, that's it. Once he comes back out, that's it. Mike's going to just hammer him. And exactly that. Mike Tyson came out like, I got him. I got this kid up against the rope. Listen to me. Many of you right now, life's got you up against the rope. You can't give up. You can't give in. Listen to me. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And if life's got you backed up, I need you to do what Buster Douglas did. Buster Douglas started fighting back. And the world was shocked. Goliath has been knocked down. What happened? And they went to Buster Douglas and they asked Buster Douglas simply like, what happened? And Buster Douglas said, listen to me. It's real simple. Before my mother died, she told the whole world that I was going to beat Mike Tyson. And 2 days before the fight, my mother died. Buster Douglas had a decision to make. When his mother died, he could die with his mother, or he made a decision, I can wake up and I can live for mom. And he knocked Mike Tyson out simply because his why was greater than that punch. His why was greater than defeat. His why was greater than his trial and his tribulation. And I'm telling you, if you don't know what your why is and your why isn't strong, you're going to get knocked out every single day.
Can't tell it any better than that. Got to know your why. Your why must be greater than any obstacle you face. Stick to it every day. It must be greater than any obstacle you face. It's been a privilege to talk to you guys today. I look forward for further engagement. There's my email. I want to hear some of your stories. I thank you guys for taking time for me today. Am I on time?